Thank you for coming. Can you guys hear me okay? Because I had to move this around. We're good? Everybody can hear me? I appreciate you coming out. I know this is the last session of the last day, and it's right after lunch. So I'm not above bribery. That's why there's candy at the tables and over there. So feel free. I don't mind if you need to get up and get a little energy. So thank you so much. As they introduced, I'm Samantha Scotti. I'm Pushing the Envelope. I'm actually located just about 3 hours south of here, and it's a real pleasure to be here. So hold on to your hats. We're going to get ready for an exciting ride and talk about digital trends for your particular marine dealership and how you can use them, and maybe some things that you're already doing and maybe can do a little bit better. So first, who am I? And then again, kind of gave some information about what I do, but I'm also a boater above all of the things. So I am your audience to a degree, and it's something that I'm particularly passionate about. I have a Maxim, a 29-foot, but we also have a sailboat as well, so I'm kind of on both sides, one of those weirdos that have both things. So this is something that I'm really excited about. Thanks for having me. I do a lot of presentations, but I've never done anything with the Marine Dealer Association, so I appreciate that very, very much. And as I mentioned, I have background in PR, but also in marketing and advertising. So we're going to touch on a couple of different things in this particular presentation about how do we leverage social media for communications, really that PR side, but then also the paid side of that too. So we'll touch on a couple of different things here. So I like to give everybody a roadmap before we get started in presentations like this. This is a longer presentation, so I want to make sure that we're all on the same page of what you're going to be able to walk away with. In front of you, you have a couple of forms. One of them, if you fill out, I'll send you some more information, some additional takeaways. But then you also have a social media measurement form. And we're going to talk about why that's important as we get into social media. But you're also going to get a really in-depth overview of digital communication. And when I say digital, that can be a little confusing. It's like, okay, what is that on my phone? Is that just internet related? Or is there another kind of component to that? Well, we're going to talk about social media, which is the big online communication platforms like Facebook, Twitter, things like that. We're also going to talk about email marketing and how to leverage that. Some of you may think that's kind of passé, but I promise you it's not. And then we're also going to talk about internet marketing, so SEO, PPC, your website, blogging, things like that. I'm going to give you some tools and some tips for using all of those different kinds of things. We're going to go over a couple of examples of how you can use this. And then we're also going to talk about lead generation, because that's what we're all in the business of, is developing leads and obviously developing sales, I should hope. And then we're going to talk about looking into the future, the crystal ball, and what's coming and what can we be prepared for. Does that sound good? Okay. So, a couple ground rules. Feel free to ask questions. I don't mind at all. I'm a kind of train of thought person, so if you guys have a question that comes to mind in the midst of it, feel free. It doesn't bother me one bit. There is going to be Q&A at the end, but if it's something that's a burning question, feel free. And yes, this presentation will be available. I know all the other ones are as well. And this one is online based, so instead of getting a slide deck, you'll actually get a link, and all the links that are in here will be live, so you can access all that information. And just a little reminder, don't automatically think that because we're talking about digital that it means it has to be someone who's 25 or younger to operate that. Anyone can do it, and I really recommend that you don't have your teenager do it. There actually has to be some strategy involved. So get your pen ready. Let's go. Digital marketing and its use for business. So as I mentioned, digital marketing encompasses far more than just your website, than just social media. It involves a lot of different things. Social media is the various channels that you can be on, but there are also different audiences for each one of those channels. I like to give the example that we had a client come to us and say, we want to be on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And I said, why? And they said, well, because that's where all my competitors are, and that's where everybody is. Those are the three big ones. That's where I need to be. That makes sense. And I said, why don't we just do this? We can do a survey, really quick, inexpensive to free, actually. SurveyMonkey, we're going to talk about that as free. Let's find out where your audience is and if that's where they want to communicate with you. So fast forward a couple weeks, we did a survey, got the results. 2% of their audience was on Twitter. And I went back to them and I said, do you still want to invest in this? Is this still important to you? Does this make sense? So we're going to talk about making sure that where you are is where your consumers are. So if some of you were in the session before, I think she was talking about how to market people that aren't like you. Make sure that you're remembering that. You're not always talking to people who are just like you. And you need to be paying attention to what they care about and what they're interested in, not just what you're trying to tell them or the channels that you particularly like. So email marketing. How many of you are doing email marketing currently? Awesome. How many of you are tracking it and making sure it's working? Okay, most of you, that's good, really good. Okay, so we're going to talk about how can we leverage that, maybe update that, and make sure that we're doing it the best way that we can, whether it's a monthly newsletter, if we're doing specials, coupons, driving people to events, whatever those things are, and some tools we can use for that. We're also going to talk about internet marketing as a whole, so your website, your holistic online presence where everyone's going to be going looking for information, a blog if you have that, but then also how do you enhance that site and get more people there through search engine optimization and pay-per-click. So how many of you, I like to get a little kind of scale here, how many of you actually own your particular dealership? Okay, most of you, that's really good. And then the rest of you, I'm imagining, are probably working in the marketing side of that particular business, yes? Okay, maybe there's a little bit of both. I get that, being a small business, you work in your business and on your business. Okay, how many of you are actively working on SEO, search engine optimization for your business? Awesome. How many of you are doing pay-per-click? A little bit less. Okay, good. What about Facebook advertising? Awesome. You guys are so advanced. Awesome. So we're going to talk about those things, maybe some tips and tools that even those of you that are using it can leverage. And then online reputation management. This is the online discussion forum. So imagine you guys are all in a room talking about my business and I'm completely ignoring you. That's what a lot of businesses are doing if they're not paying attention to what people are talking about online. So we're going to go over those things and how important those are. So social media. I mean, none of these icons are foreign to you. I'm sure that you've seen all of them. Facebook, obviously, is the 800-pound gorilla, as we refer to it. It's the mammoth social media channel, old, young, all over the world. Everybody's on that channel. But why are they on there? It's because they want to connect with people, not necessarily because they want to connect with a brand or a company or get commercialized. That's not what they're looking for. You know, that's why the DVR was created, so I didn't have to watch commercials, but I can still watch my show. So think about that when you're developing content for Facebook or otherwise, that it's not necessarily about the message you're trying to convey, but what your audience wants to hear and how do you interweave your message into that. Also think about the timing of when you're posting things and what you're posting. So how many of you are familiar that they came out with a new algorithm? Most of you that probably do pay-per-click or Facebook advertising are familiar with that. So Facebook switched up their algorithm, making it harder for businesses to get into the news feed of consumers. So if you're a business and you're doing great content and you have 5,000 people on your page, that's awesome. But you might see your engagement numbers going down, even if you're doing Facebook advertising. That's because they've changed their algorithm. They want you to pay to be in the news feed of consumers. So there are a few tips and tools I recommend for converting against that. And one of those is mixing up the content that you post. So don't just share content from other pages, like maybe your manufacturers or other local dealers, but share your content and their content. Share photos, videos, and links. By mixing up the content you're sharing, it makes it look like you have a more diverse and rich communication that's going out, and Facebook likes that because they think that you're going to be providing more stuff that consumers are actually going to be interested in, so you have a higher likelihood of showing up in the news feeds. But also keep in mind trends and topics that are going on, and look at the insights on the timing for when you're posting things on Facebook. The rule of thumb is to post 2 times a week maybe on Facebook. If you're a super active page and you have a really engaged audience, you can do more than that. But look at how often you're posting and when you're posting. A great example, we were managing a Facebook page and we were following the industry trends, and it was supposed to be posting between 8 and 11 a.m. on weekdays, and we were doing that on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And engagement was okay, but it wasn't great. And we started looking at the insights. People were engaging with that page between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. because it was that particular audience. We switched up when we're posting, and engagement went through the roof. So pay attention to that information that's all available for free to you as a business. Then there's LinkedIn, professional network. For those of you that are looking to connect with other professionals, whether it's for networking like this, where you're trying to get your product into dealerships, or vice versa, that's a great tool to use. You can connect one-on-one, you can share information, you can participate in group conversations, chats, things like that, and really foster new connections. But there's also the opportunity to have a business page on LinkedIn. How many of you have that for your company? Not as many. Okay. So you can LinkedIn used to be a place where it was really just like an online resume. You listed all the things that you did, and if somebody wanted to contact you, they could, but it was really sort of a static environment. It's not that anymore. So you still have your personal profile, but you can have your business profile, and you can actually post content and information. If you're looking to hire, you can also post things on there. So it's become a lot more diverse. Then there's Pinterest. So Pinterest is like the wonderland, sort of. It's where everyone goes if they're kind of trying to put together their dream vacation, their dream wedding, their dream boat, their dream car, their dream trip. They can do that on there. Or if they're looking for recipes for dinner tonight. It's really just kind of a place for people to spend time and enjoy. And with what you're selling, it's not a must. I don't have to have your particular product to survive. It's not like food. So you want to go to a place where people are already in that mindset. And Pinterest is a great place. The other thing to keep in mind is that women are decision makers in a household. You know, keep that in mind. If they're on there, there might be a way for you to kind of interweave with them and show them what the experience of boating could be like, what this lifestyle is like, and why they need to be part of it. The other site is Twitter. It's a microblogging site. I'm sure everyone's heard about Twitter. How many of you are actually using that? I'm curious. Do you find that you always have really good content to share on that channel? Because Twitter is one of those things that constantly needs babysitting. It's sort of like a stew that keeps going all day long. You have to keep adding to it. Unless you have really great content, it just becomes boring, regurgitated stuff that no one wants. So you have to think about when you're posting something on Twitter, is this something new? Is this fresh? Is there a link? Is there a driver? Or am I retweeting someone else? Our recommendation for social content is 4 to 1. That's our ratio. For every 4 posts, tweets, pins, whatever it is that you're doing that have added value, that share a link to someone else, that are geographically located or industry related, you get 1 promotional post. So that way it's not all about me. So what's your name? Mark. So say Mark and I are friends, and every time I get together with Mark, we do coffee once a month, I'm telling him, hey Mark, do you know I have this new product? Hey, do you know I have this on sale? Hey, do you know we're doing this next week? You'd stop hanging out with me, right? Yeah, because that's boring. That's what businesses do online. They keep talking about themselves and their specials, and they never have conversations or do anything engaging their consumer. Now, I should say that's what most do. That's not what you guys do. I know you do better than that. So keep that in mind, that it has to be a conversation. It can't just be me, my product, my product, my product. People want more than that. YouTube. You're in the industry of experience. What I sell is more of a service. That's what we offer. What you guys offer is an experience. The thrill, the fun, the excitement, the family time, the relaxation perhaps. What better way to show that than through video or pictures? It speaks 1,000 words. The attention span as of 2014 is shorter than a goldfish. It is 2 seconds. So some of you, I've already lost your attention. Some of you are kind of bouncing back and forth, and some of you are still paying attention. That's pretty good. But 2 seconds. So if you can tell your story in a video or in a photo, you're far more likely for someone to actually pay attention to that or retain that or do whatever call to action you're asking them to do. So keep that in mind. And there's a ton of channels. Instagram for one, Vine is another one. Instagram is entirely visually based. It's all about pictures. Now you can do some short videos as well. It's hashtag related. That's what they like to do, a lot of hashtags on there. It's a great way to connect with other people. So perhaps it is you go onto Instagram and you search for the hashtag boating, and then you follow people that are doing that, maybe with a hashtag related to your area. For me, it's hashtag SWFL, and those are people that like boating that are in my market. Boom, perfect. I already have a built-in group of people that I want to connect with. So it's a pretty easy channel to use. And a great way to feature your product, your customers, if you want to celebrate somebody, like, look at Bob, he just bought this bike, that's cool. You know, or this boat, you want to put that out there. You can also obviously show any particular products that you have that are of interest. If you have an event going on, you can share that. And Google+. We have a love-hate relationship with Google+. I think most people do. They've kind of forced you into having it. So if you create a YouTube channel, you have to have a Google+ page. You can only do certain things with it. There is an audience there. They're 20 to 30 super tech-savvy males. That's the audience that's on Google+. So if that's who you're looking for because you sell products they would be interested in, then perfect, that's a great place for you. And there are cool features, hangouts, things like that. And really, it does help with SEO. So while we don't make it a priority necessarily in our social media mix, we do recommend that people leverage that because it's owned by the biggest search engine in the world. It's going to help you a little bit if you use it the right way, which is all about keywords and mixing up your content. And then Vine. Vine, again, is really more geared at the younger audience, probably not people that you're necessarily looking for. It's really the 25 and under audience. but it's all video, super fast, kind of fun, quirky. So maybe if you sell jet skis or if you sell something that's a little bit lower in the price range, that could be a great avenue for you to connect with people and to showcase those products. So any questions about these particular channels before we go on? No? Good. So email marketing, and I apologize, this is kind of blurry, but I wanted to do something a little bit more fun than just another list of things, your guidelines. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Sure. Twitter tends to be professional based, surprisingly. It really kind of started out as people sharing what they were having for lunch in every waking moment of their life. And you still have people that do that, but a lot of professionals are on there because they're sharing information related to something they're interested in. Again, it goes back to the hashtags. But then again, if you're looking at hashtags for a specific product that really is related to teenagers, you're going to have different people on there. So Twitter is kind of a mixed bag like Facebook where you get a lot of different people, but a lot of professionals do use that channel. Let's see, I can go back, make sure I don't forget any of them. LinkedIn, pretty obvious, mostly professionals. I'd say you're 25, people getting out of college age to 50-something. Pinterest is definitely more female focused. Stay-at-home moms is really where it started. I would say still skews to the female side, but there are more males using it. Twitter we talked about, YouTube. A lot of young people use YouTube. It's actually the second largest search engine in the world, which is sort of hard to believe because it's only videos, but people use it to find how to cut open a pineapple to how to fix their sink. So you get a really mixed bag. Like my dad will use YouTube for things, and my 14-year-old cousin might as well. So you kind of have a mixed bag there. Instagram is also sort of the younger generation. Again, thinking about the way that things have changed, the attention span now being only 2 seconds, the generation that's coming up now, they're used to having everything handed to them right now. Don't make me read something. You show me a paragraph of text, I'm not going to read it. I'm going to skim the first headline, and then maybe pick up a couple of words, and that's it. I'm not going to see anything else. So Instagram kind of fills that void of telling me something without making me read it. And it's also very social. And people love to show pictures of themselves and take pictures of things that are going on. How many of you have taken a picture today while you've been here? Right. And probably shared it on a social network. It's just the way that it works. So Instagram is kind of a broad base, but I'd say, you can have anyone from a teenager to probably 40s, I'd say would be the most. Maybe there's a few outliers that are over that. Does that help? Good. Great. And if you want even more in-depth information, most of these channels, if you go into the About section of them, will have like a user profile, sort of like a newspaper would have in their media kit. They'll have that information available for you. Yep. Okay. Ready? Moving on? Great. So, email marketing, some guidelines. We're going to go in depth in these, but subject lines, copy, what's your concept, why are you doing it, making sure it's creative and different, and always keeping in mind what your end goal is. Conversion. That's why we're doing it. I'm not doing this for my health. I'm not spending the time to put a newsletter together because it looks pretty and it's nice to send out. It has to perform. So we're going to talk about the subject line, calls to action, the content you're putting in, how much you're putting in, how much you send out, or how often you send it out, to try to help you increase your transactions from email marketing. So, digging right in, platforms. Constant Contact and MailChimp are two of the top email platforms. Are any of you guys using other platforms, like something from your CRM tool or something else? A few of you guys? Okay. So this may not apply to you. I know some of those can be a little bit restrictive in terms of the customization that they offer. But if you are interested in doing email marketing, Constant Contact you have to pay for, no matter if you have 2 people on your list or 2,000. MailChimp is free up to a certain size, so it's kind of nice if you're a smaller dealership and you're looking to kind of get started and dabble in it. MailChimp is really handy. No matter what channel you use, MailChimp has a fantastic help section on their site, and it's free. You don't have to have access to the site or an account in order to get that. So if you have questions about well, why aren't my emails getting read? What's a spam rate? What's the bounce rate? Why are these things happening? They have a lot of really great resources available to you on their site. But those two are super handy, and they have templates available to you that you can customize. Anytime you're doing email marketing, make sure it's branded, and that doesn't just mean sticking your logo on it. That means making sure that the colors are right. So you'll see our branding is orange, obviously, so anything that I have is going to be orange. So you're going to look for things like that. You're going to make sure that you have the right fonts and that the links are working and all of those kinds of things. And then we're going to talk about frequency. What's the industry standard for how often should I be sending an email? How many of you have deleted an email simply because of the subject line or because of the person that sent it to you or the company? Exactly. So that's really important. Think about that. We tend to overlook it because if we're sending out a newsletter, it's like Bob's boat sales news for February or something, right? We think that's a great subject line because that's exactly what it is. It has your company name in it in the newsletter, but that's not enough to make somebody open it. You have to think about what's the best time for me to send this, how often should I be sending it. A rule of thumb would be to send, if you're going to send a newsletter, send it once a month, don't send it more than that. I mean, I get emails from Staples almost every single day about coupons and crap, and I hate it. Don't do that. Don't be that company. And if you have the time and the ability, I would encourage you to ask your consumers what they want. If they're signing up for your newsletter, ask them, do they want to know about specials only? Do they want a newsletter roundup? How often do they want it? Another example is we had an organization that we were working with, and they were looking into their social media and their email marketing, and they thought for sure that their members would want information about their particular industry in addition to things that were going on within their own organization. Among other things, we asked that question in the survey, and they came back with absolutely not. We don't want any information about the industry. We get it from all these other sources. We're sick of it. We only want information about this. Had you not asked that question, they would have been really suffering from poor open rates, they're not getting any click-throughs, things like that. So ask that question. You can do a poll on Facebook. You can do a free 10-question survey with SurveyMonkey. You can have your salespeople ask it. You can have a little table tent form they fill out at events. There's a myriad of ways to find that information, but it's incredibly valuable for you. And then the subject line. We talked about that, and I have a couple of examples of the 3 words you don't want to use anytime ever, ever, ever in a subject line, and making sure that the content that you put in there really adds value. Again, it's not the me show. It's not all about my business and what we're doing. People want added value. And then tracking, A/B testing, and content focus. So A/B testing is where you can break up your audience into 2 sections, Section A, Section B. Maybe have one database of 100 email addresses, and I'm going to send 50 of them the same exact newsletter as the other section, but it has a different subject line, and I'm going to see which one gets opened more. Or maybe the next month I'm going to switch around the way the article blocks are and see which one gets more engagement. Or maybe the colors are going to be different, and you can see which one performs better. So it's real helpful. So, subject lines. 3 words to avoid. Help, % off, and reminder. You'd think those would be pretty good because people would be enticed by the offer of some kind of discount or you're helping them with something. Free is another one you kind of want to avoid. But spam filters are trained to pick those up as well as exclamation points. So while it might be really super exciting that you're having this mega blowout sale this weekend, don't put mega blowout sale exclamation point as the subject line because you have a much higher likelihood of getting dumped into the spam folder, unfortunately. And make sure that your subject lines are 50 characters or less. You think about how often you're checking your email on your phone versus checking your email on an iPad or on a desktop or on a laptop. Quite a lot. And you can only see so much of the subject line on your phone, and then it gets cut off. So 50 characters or less so that everyone can see it and they get what you're saying, and it's not a question mark of what is this, do I really want to open this, or am I just going to, after 2 seconds, give up and delete you? So be relevant. These are some questions that you can ask to determine, is your content relevant? Maybe get a little focus group. Maybe you have 5 really good customers that you've known for a long time, and you buy them lunch and you say, hey, I have some questions for you. What do you think about this? Do you attend events? Do you like our email newsletter? Do you think something should be different? You know, are you looking at our advertising? You can ask as many questions you want. And then you can interview new customers too. So have your salespeople kind of interweave these questions into the process of working with them, or you can have questions online on your website, on social media, et cetera, as we talked about. So when we're looking at the big idea of email marketing, it's really about continual communication with our clients or our customers. It's not just a hit or miss or throw something on the wall and hope that it sticks. We really want to stay top of mind because in your industry, there's a lot of competition, just like in mine. So someone can choose to go to your particular dealership or anyone else's. So why would they want to keep going to you? If they think of you first, you have a much higher likelihood of them actually converting and contacting you. So it starts with listening and paying attention to your buyer's persona. What are they interested in? What do they want? And what are they interested in? And then decide on your theme and your topic. So are you going to do a newsletter? Are you going to do announcements only? Are you going to do it quarterly? Or are you going to do it once a month? Are you going to do it as needed? Create your content. Make sure that it's focused on what they're looking for, not necessarily what you're trying to push. And then you can promote that content. So if you're trying to build your database still, say you don't have a ton, you can use it sort of as bait. Like we offer 3 tips every single month on how to keep your boat in pristine condition during the winter or whatever that is. We offer X in our newsletter, and you can only get it in our newsletter. So then you're drawing them in to want to sign up. Or maybe you're incentivizing them. If you go to Moe's, they incentivize you to sign up for their mobile club because you get a free drink. All these restaurants do that. There's something that you guys can offer to incentivize them to sign up, and you can promote that content that's in your newsletter. And then measure and evaluate. That's why I asked you guys, are you measuring what's going on in your email marketing and your social and things like that are going on your website? If you're just doing it and you don't know if it's working or not, why are you doing it? It's a waste of time. And every single channel that we're talking about today, there are measurement components, and almost all of them are free. So you can see, all right, if I sent my email to 600 people, did 500 of them open or did 5 of them open it? And am I getting any click-throughs? Are those click-throughs going to my website, and am I getting any phone calls from that? Or are they coming to look at a particular unit that I have for sale? Did they call that salesperson when we put their picture in there and said, call so-and-so today for this information? You can track all of that. And then repurpose it. Yeah? Well, advertising, email blast, I would say, unless it's worded in a certain way and people are expecting to get them. So say, for instance, if I get an advertisement from a business that I'm used to only getting a newsletter from, the open rate may be a little bit less. I'd say anything over 15% is pretty strong. And that sounds really low, but those are people that are really engaged with you. And you can make that number higher by applying some of these suggestions. Click-through rate varies. It depends on how many you have, because if you've got a ton of links and one person clicks on all of them versus you only have one link, that number could change. It can be a little bit different. So I'd say click-through rates tend to be in the 20 to 40% range on average. Is that what you're seeing or somewhere around there? That's good. So that means your audience is interested in what you have to offer and your subject lines are strong and they're expecting that information. Yes, that's hard. And that's where your engagement numbers come in. So are they clicking on things? Are they going to different places? Yeah, and we're going to talk about more in-depth tracking too. So if you're already monitoring your click-through rate, we can determine specifically which links they're engaging with and when and what channels. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit. So moving away from email, we're going to talk about internet marketing for a little bit. Your new front door is your website. It's not your front door. And I really even shouldn't say that your new front door is that. It's just your front door. We should have known this for some time now, especially with bigger ticket items. If I'm going to be investing a significant amount of money, $1,000, $5,000, $20,000, $150,000, I'm going to be doing my homework. I'm going to look up a couple of different things online. I'm going to look up the manufacturer and information about that. I'm going to go to the provider's website. So make sure that that website looks and performs as good as your store or showroom does and your staff does. It's critically important. If it doesn't load fast enough, if it doesn't have accurate information, if it doesn't look like your brand, I'm leaving. So check your bounce rates. That's a huge telling point for you. Are people going to your homepage and leaving before they go anywhere else because they're not interested in what you have to offer? You could be the absolute best provider and have the best product and information, and people will never know it if your website isn't up to snuff. Now, I'm not telling you to go dump $10,000 in doing a website or something. Just make sure that it's branded well, that it performs well. You know, load time can be impacted by the graphics you have on your website. Are they super huge or are they low res? Low res can still look good on web. Any of those things that take a really long time, again, my attention span is 2 seconds, I'm done. So starting SEO, you can't ignore it. I'm so excited that you guys are using that. By the show of hands, it looked like the majority of everyone in this room was actually using it already. SEO stands for search engine optimization, and essentially it's the long game. Pay-per-click is the short game. In the long game, you're looking at organic results. Someone searching for something and finding my website, ideally on the first page. If not, then on the second page. You're lucky if someone goes to the second page. And again, you're in a really competitive market, so you have to think about what are people searching for. Pay to play is definitely real. Pay-per-click certainly helps your SEO. There are actual reports now out about that. It started about a year ago, where we can confirm the pay-per-click does in fact help your organic search results. Does it change it overnight? No. Do you still need to do the white knight activities of being good and having great content and updating it and having good inbound links? Yes, absolutely. So the real key with SEO, because there was a change in the algorithm, is about solving people's problems. Again, as I said before, this isn't the me show. Even though it's your website about your business, you have to address what they're looking for. Are they looking for adventure? Are they looking for relaxation? Are they looking for the tool to help them catch the biggest fish? What is it that they're looking for, and how do you help them find it? So look at the keywords and the phrases that people are using to find your site. The way you do that is looking at Google Analytics or any other kind of tracking mechanism you may have on your site, which I assume most of you probably have. Some of the algorithm changes, and for those of you that were here yesterday for the SEO and social media presentation that was done, you may have touched on a little bit of this. But there was a change over the last couple of years with how Google presents information to searchers. So for those of you that are using your computer right now, if you searched for something, Google is trying to show you what it thinks you want to see. And that's based on your previous search history, that's based on where you're located, that's based on all different kinds of factors and information it's collecting about you. It's trying to find the solution to your problem, not just present you with links that have the keyword in it that you're searching for. That's really important to think about. It's semantic-based results. It's not just keywords anymore. So Panda was the first big change. In 2011 it came out, and basically it was against content farms. And this is getting kind of technical, but there used to be places where just knock out content repetitively. There were places in India that were writing pages and pages of content for less than $10 and selling it, and then it was being replicated all over the internet. And people didn't know they were doing it. They were basically, if you're a lawyer, you can go to a company that builds sites just for lawyers. And they thought it was awesome because it was related to their particular industry. They paid a fee, and the site was built and had all the content. Well, it doesn't look good in the eyes of Google because it's on every other lawyer's website exactly the same. Then there was Penguin in 2012, and it was essentially trying to get people to stop doing dirty backlinking or inbound links. An inbound link is simply if the MRAA has a link on their website to my website, that's an inbound link for me. Now, you can create inbound links on a plethora of illegitimate sites and have them all point to you. And the old way Google would look at that as like, wow, look at all these sites. They've got 200 sites pointing to their site. That must be a really good one. Well, then they got smart and realized half of these or more are not legitimate sites. So now you get discredited for that. And then Hummingbird was the biggest change. And this was literally a complete overwrite of the algorithm for Google. Hummingbird changed the way the entire system works. And that's where the semantic coding comes in. What is the user looking for? How do you solve their problem? So the solution is pretty simple, and it's what we all really should have been doing from the beginning, which is creating valuable, customer-focused content that addresses their needs. That it's not just, here's the product, here's the information. It's, here's the information about this particular product, here's why it's important, here's how it solves your problem, here's how it adds to your life or your experience or what have you. It's solving their issues. I highly recommend, because that was a very brief little tidbit of nerdiness, but for those of you that are really interested in learning more about algorithms and how to set up your site, maybe you're the webmaster for your site, this is a great tool to use, Moz.com, M-O-Z. There's tons of resources available, and this particular one that I have listed is all about those algorithms. So I saw some people taking pictures, but this is available to you. I'll send it to you too. So SEO, really important. It's the long game. It determines where you show up in search. Now we have the short game, which is pay-per-click. If you need immediate results, say sales are down and you have a big campaign coming up and you have to have the attention to your site, pay-per-click is the way to go. You can work on SEO for months and see a slight uptick, but it's going to take time for Google to index your site, for other things to take place. Pay-per-click, you can have a change overnight. And it's also trackable. But don't think it's the end all, because if your site is really bad and you're putting tons of money into pay-per-click, it doesn't mean that you're still going to get great performance. You could have a ton of bounce rates, even with doing pay-per-click, if your site isn't delivering on what you're telling people. It's sort of like seeing an ad in the paper and then driving to the restaurant only to find out they don't sell that kind of food. You know, you want to make sure that whatever your pay-per-click ad is selling people, that your site actually offers that and backs it up. There's a keyword tool available, which is also free, adwords.google.com/keyword planner. This is what it looks like. It's really helpful. How many of you guys have used that? Cool. So maybe half the bunch. I recommend this tool not just for pay-per-click, but also for putting together your content for social media and for your website. This tool shows you how much traffic a given phrase or keyword is getting, and you can set it up to search for that locally. So if you're in Orlando, I can have it just show me what's the traffic for this keyword in this market, or in the state, or nationwide, or worldwide. And again, keeping in mind, if you're marketing to people that aren't like you, or even if you're marketing to people who are like you, we don't necessarily use the same phrases. I might search for something saying beauty salon, Fort Myers, hair extensions or something, and somebody else might use an entirely different combination of words to find that. So just because you think people are searching for your business using these phrases or keywords, double check that. You'd be surprised. So sometimes you might see that that particular phrase only has 200 in terms of traffic, and others could have thousands. And you really want to go where the most of your audience is going and what phrases they're using. So it's a really helpful tool. So the next section kind of parlays off of internet marketing, and it's online reputation management. This is essentially the conversation that's happening all around you online and all about your business, and it may not necessarily be happening on your Facebook page or on your website. There's two irrefutable truths. Opinions are like belly buttons. Everyone has one. Whether or not they share it with you is something else, but I promise you, anyone that has ever interacted with your business has an opinion about it. Is it good? Is it bad? Are they sharing it with someone else or not? And the other is that they all want their opinion to matter. At some deep level, every single person wants to feel like they matter and that their opinion matters. And if you can accomplish that, you have a connection with them. You know, an example of that is there's a restaurant in Naples that has comment cards. And I, being in marketing, tend to fill out comment cards and give people feedback, and would hope I get the same from you guys. There's a comment line on those forms. And the business owner of this particular restaurant has been in business since the 70s. He's an older gentleman. If anyone fills out a comment card and it's a negative response, he personally calls them to discuss it. Can you imagine, one, how shocked someone is because someone's actually reading the comment card, and two, that it's the owner of the restaurant? It's powerful. That creates a relationship and a connection, and I promise you those people are telling other people. I'm telling all of you. That's something so simple and so incredibly valuable. And online reputation management is just the same. It just happens to be online. So gone are the days where if I had a good or a bad experience, I'm only telling one person, me and Mark are having a conversation about it. Now I'm going to tell my mom, my dad, my sister, my friend. I'm going to text people. I'm going to post it on Facebook. I'm going to write a review on a site, and I'm going to have conversations. There's sites like Google Plus and Google Local for your business where people can write reviews. Yelp, obviously. And then, of course, there's the reviews section of your Facebook page, which is here. People can write reviews on there. Are you paying attention to this? If you're not, it would be like walking into this room, the example I gave before, and everyone's having a conversation about your business and sharing what they think about it, and you just turning around and walking away because you don't care. That's what you're doing if you're not paying attention to this, and it's incredibly powerful. Because if you have a thought leader or someone who persuades your audience that's on there and is really unhappy with you, and you don't even acknowledge them or reply, it looks like you don't care. So why am I, as a consumer who have never interacted with you, going to go to a business that doesn't care about their consumers? I'm not interested. There's plenty of other resources that I can go to. So, why does this matter? I've made a pretty good case so far, but negative word of mouth, it is proven, spreads faster than positive. If I have a bad experience at a restaurant and I see some heads nodding, I'm going to tell people, like, you're not going to believe what happened to me last night. I went to this restaurant and this, And, you're going to go on and on. You're going to tell this person and that person, post about it, all that kind of stuff. Positive doesn't happen that way. If I have a good experience, I might tell one person. I might share something on Facebook, but I'm not going to go crazy about it, sharing it. And positive personal recommendations are worth their weight in gold. You can't pay for that kind of advertising. Word of mouth is far more believable than any advertising. I could put a print ad in front of you that says verbatim what your friend tells you, and you're going to believe your friend 4, 5, 10 times more than that advertisement, simply because you are programmed to understand that an ad is an ad and it's designed to sell me, whereas my friend is not motivated in that way. So if you have someone taking the time, again, 2-second attention span, so they're giving you something by taking a moment to write a sentence about you on Yelp, you need to acknowledge them, appreciate them, and reward them if you can. So, and also, reviews are heavily leveraged in the buying and decision-making process. How many of you have used the Amazon reviews for something, right? Scrolled through, maybe 10, 20, depending on how big the purchase price is. Or maybe you ask somebody like, oh, you drive a Ford, what do you think about that car, right? We all do it. We all use other people's opinions and experiences to enrich our own decision-making process. So keep that in mind when you're looking at your reviews and ignoring them or not. And don't delete the negative ones. That's another little tool. It's very tempting to do that. We have a client who operates a marine outfit in Naples. They have a deep-sea fishing charter, and they had someone write a scathing review about them because they got wet while they were fishing. It's kind of stupid, right? So the owner was like, this is ridiculous. You should expect that. Let's just delete it. This is completely ridiculous. No, you can't do that. You have to acknowledge the person. I'm sorry if it didn't meet your expectations. This is part of the process. We'd love to have you come back again. Because then other people who are reading that are probably thinking this person is ridiculous too. But at least they know that you care and you read it and you responded. And that person, who knows whether or not you want them back again, but maybe they'll come back again. So, we've done an overview of online digital communications. We've talked about internet marketing, email marketing, social media. Heads are probably spinning a little bit. Now we're going to talk about some top tips for today and some tools for today, and we're going to move on to the next section. So, tips for today. Social media should be business, not personal. I hope that you all have business Facebook pages now. Please tell me that none of you have ones that say you're Bob's Boat Deals and it says that you're employed at Bob's Boat Deals and that you're asking for friends. You should have a business page. A business page asks you what hours of operation you have, what categories of business you're in, asks you for your website listing. You can get a custom URL. It's very easy. And you get all the insights and benefits of having a business page. It's very important. Not to mention, if you're not using it correctly, Facebook can blacklist you and completely shut down your account without looking back. And there's no way to get it back, so don't do that. Email, make sure your list is clean. I saw almost all of you raise your hand saying that you're doing email marketing, and that's fantastic. But when was the last time you cleaned your list? Are you purging it when people opt out? Are you removing bounces? And if you've been collecting email addresses for 10 years, I promise you some of those are probably pretty old. Use an email list cleaning service. It's very inexpensive. A lot of times it's less than a penny per name. And it can run through your list and tell you which email addresses are active, which ones are blacklisted, because sometimes you can get bots that sign up for email newsletters, and then which ones just may not be around anymore. And you want to make sure you keep your list clean so that your bounce rate is low, your spam rate's low, because if you have a really high bounce rate or poor performance, Constant Contact is just one example, but they can completely shut down your account and claim your list and not let you do any more email marketing. The other thing to keep in mind is CAN spam laws. How many of you have heard of that? A couple people. If you have not heard of it and you are doing email marketing, please look it up. It's in the best interest of your business. CAN spam came out a number of years ago and essentially was created to stop spam email. It's regulating email marketing. So it tells you how you can collect email addresses and how you cannot. Just because you have a class reunion and you see 2,500 people from your high school and you get their business cards does not mean that you can add them to your email marketing list. You have to get it the right way. They have to give you permission to contact you. So make sure you're doing that. And then you're keeping that information. So for instance, if you fill out that form that's in front of you and you want me to send you some information, it also says that I'm going to send you some email information. Now, that's giving me permission to give you that information, to send you that email, but I have to keep those cards. Otherwise, I don't have any proof that you gave me permission. Versus if someone signs up for your email on your website or otherwise, you get proof that way. Internet marketing. Meta tags. For those of you that are the webmaster for your site, or maybe you work with a webmaster, ask them what the meta tags are for your site. Meta tags are essentially the background information, the snippets that explain what your site is about or a particular page. Make sure it is accurate and that you update it if it needs to be, because that's what Google's looking at when it's determining if I want to send somebody to this particular page of this particular website. And make sure you're updating your content. Most of you are in the product business, maybe some services too, but mostly products. Don't have products on your site if you don't sell them anymore. If you're listing, here's our new inventory and here's our pre-owned inventory, but you happen to have a great weekend and you sell some of them, the first thing you need to do on Monday is remove those ones you don't have anymore. Because nothing's more frustrating for a consumer to do all their homework and then go online and fall in love with something and then call and find out it can't be purchased. That's the first way to send them away. And then online reputation management. Make sure you're claiming those listings. If it's Yelp, Google Local, Yahoo Local, any of those kind of sites, claim it. Brand it, make sure the information is correct, and then check on it. If you don't have a really active community, it's okay to only check once a month, that's fine. If you're doing a lot of things and you have a lot of events going on, you've got a lot of people at your location, and you know you get a lot of reviews online, you should be checking that at least once a week. We recommend putting together sort of a response triage or checklist. So if you think of a scale of 0 to 10, 0 is somebody really hates us and they had a bad experience. 5 is they're neutral and it wasn't terrible, they'd probably come back, but they weren't in love. And a 10 is they're your best ambassador in the world. Think about that scale and how would you reply to those particular situations. If you're the business owner or the marketing person, you're probably not actually doing the responses to these online reputation reviews. You probably have someone else helping you. Help them do a better job. Give them some sort of canned responses to start with that they can then customize. So if it's a 10, here are some suggested responses for those. If it's a 5, here's some suggested responses. If it's a 0, here's what you do in this particular situation. Help them do a better job. It's going to help you in the long run. And then again, if you're interested in learning a little bit more, there's another Moz link, and this one is for the meta tags that I was talking about up here. Questions? No? Oh, yeah? I'm sorry. So she was asking a question, what's the difference between an email bounce rate and a website bounce rate, right? Okay. So an email bounce rate simply means that I sent an email to you and it was returned. It did not get to you. Whether that means your email address wasn't correct, it's not open anymore, there was something wrong with the email server, who knows what it is. It didn't get to you. A website bounce rate means I searched for something, found a link to your site, went there, visited the home page, and then left. I did not visit anything else on your site. that means essentially when I got there, I realized this was not what I was looking for, and I went someplace else. Okay? Okay? So, some more tips. These are a little bit more in depth. If you are managing your website, or you're responsible for that, or you care about it and you're checking it, or maybe perhaps you're updating it often, you need to block your IP address. This is a link to do that. It's very easy if you just search block IP. How many of you know what an IP address is to start with? Only a few of you. An IP is essentially your internet protocol. It is the address that is associated with your particular internet at your particular location. So right now, if you're connected to the internet that's in this building, you're using the IP address from this particular building. If I'm doing updates to a website and I want to keep going back and tracking it and making sure that it's performing, and maybe perhaps I have an event going on and I'm looking at ticket sales, I'm going to probably be visiting that site once, twice a day, maybe even more than that. So I could be skewing the traffic results if I don't block my IP address. It's very important. So if you are the website manager and you're constantly going to the site and checking it and updating it and putting new product up there, or otherwise making edits, you could be skewing it. So you might say, well, last month we only had 500 visits, but this month I started this new effort and now we have 1,500. Well, you're probably half of those. So block your IP address. So this is just some information. It's snagged from Google, and again, this link is in the presentation. So I can't hear you. You can block any IP address. I don't know that you could block an entire network. I don't actually know the answer to that. He was asking if you can block a mobile IP address. So if he was searching on his phone, would you be able to block that if cellular devices have their own IP address? I don't think so, unless ones that have their own hotspot, they would, I would imagine. But most of the time, you're using other Wi-Fi in the area. So this is just some information. What you do, it's very easy to fill this out. It's a filter type. You just put in that you want to exclude it. You put in the address, and that's it. Very easy to use. And then there's also creating UTM codes. And I'm going to jump back here. I apologize. UTM codes. How many of you are familiar with UTM codes? One. Awesome. You're two. You guys are well advanced. So UTM codes essentially give you even more advanced tracking. So say I have 3 different things running in a particular advertisement. I might have an online ad. I could have a banner ad in the paper, and then I might also have some kind of push down on the website of a newspaper. Well, if I'm tracking, it's going to show that all the traffic came from that one particular source, that newspaper. If you use a UTM code, you can put in all the different information about the campaign source, the medium, the term, and the content. So by customizing a UTM code, it's essentially making a really special URL, you can further track where things are coming from. So where within your site or where within your email newsletter or otherwise did people come from? How did they get this information specifically within there? It's a little bit more advanced, but it's very easy. If you Google UTM code generator, it'll come up with literally a fill-in-the-blank form online, and you put in, it was in the news press, in their email, and the campaign is weekend sale, and then you put the URL, and it will generate it for you, and you can track that information. So it really helps you define where people are coming from. So some top tools for today. We talked about tips, how to use it. Top tools. Social media, we have Facebook Insights. We talked about all the different ways that you can measure your information, measure the performance of things online, whether it's on Facebook, LinkedIn, or otherwise. All that information is available to you as a business user, and it's free, all on the back end of the site. YouTube even, you can see when people are dropping out of your videos. If you're posting lots of videos and you're getting some views, that's awesome, but are they staying for the entire thing? If you're posting a video, it's 5 minutes, and people are dropping out at 2, maybe you need to make shorter videos. All that information is available to you. For those of you that use Instagram, Grambler is a fantastic tool. Instagram is mobile-based. You virtually have to be using your mobile phone to take the picture, do the filter, put whatever copy you want, and then load it to Instagram that way. The only tool that we have found, there's probably some others, Grambler is really easy. It's free. You can actually manipulate your Instagram and load to it. through your computer. So you download Grambler, you get whatever picture you want, say you want to put some text over it, or you only have a picture that's in your email or on your computer, you don't have it on your phone, you can drop it in, put whatever caption you want, use the hashtags, and it will load it actually to Instagram for you. Really handy tool. Hootsuite as well. I'm sure some of you are probably using it. For those of you that have more than one social channel, say you're on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and something else, you can use Hootsuite to manage all of those in one place. It also gives you shortened links so you can track all of them, and it'll produce reports as well if you want. Email. The tool I recommend for data validation is literally called Data Validation. That's the company name. It's datavalidation.com. It's very easy to use, very fast turnaround, reliable, and extremely inexpensive, literally less than a penny per name most of the time. We've talked about SEO mods, we've talked about online reputation management, and a few other tools for general monitoring is Social Mention. I don't know if anybody's using that. I would assume most of you are familiar at this point with Google Alerts and how those work. You can set up certain terms, whether there are Boolean terms or if it's just generally your business name in Google Alerts, and it'll send you a little email and put you a link. Okay, Social Mention is like that, but only for social media. So it will scour all of social media and pull any content that relates to the keywords or terms that you put in for search. It's really handy. And actually, we used this for a client, and something popped, and it was an employee who had just started working in the HR department, and she had a personal blog and was sharing about her new job and sharing a little bit too much information about her job and the company that she worked for. And it did not come up in Google Alerts. The only way we found it was because of Social Mention. So we went to our client, her employer, and said, FYI, Betty Sue in HR is posting some things that she probably shouldn't be posting. You may want to talk with her about it. And we were able to kind of resolve that issue before it became a problem. If we didn't have Social Mention up, who knows how that could have escalated. Google Analytics, free. It's a code, runs the back end of your site. You can find out everything from what term did someone use to find your site, how many pages did they visit, what country do they live in, were they using an iPad or are they using a tablet, what color are their eyes practically. You can find out all the information that you want about the people visiting your site. And then phone tracking. And actually I was impressed. I saw a phone tracking company here. We use a different one, but it's a great tool. For those of you that get lots of phone calls, people are investigating. They want to talk to somebody before they make a big purchase. Phone tracking is huge. You can't rely on a receptionist to be able to catch every single person and ask them where they came from or even do it accurately, even if they're trying. Phone tracking definitively tells you that. If you put a specific phone number on your ad versus on your website versus on your business card versus on some collateral piece, you can track where are people calling from. It all rings to the same number, but you're able to determine, did this ad work versus did someone just go to the website and make a phone call? So, a quick example, because I realize I'm almost running out of time. This is a great way to leverage digital marketing for sales. This is something that we worked on probably about a year ago now. And the question was, how do you increase leads? How do you get people to come to your website and make a decision to purchase with you? They're 35 to 55 and they're women. What do you do if you're a marine company, right? And some of you might be looking in that particular audience. Well, we came up with a photo contest idea. This is very easy to manage, and if you play your cards right, it can be almost free, and the value is immense. So we came up with the concept of get on the love boat. And the idea was it was around Valentine's Day. We were trying to market to women, but it had to be marine related. It didn't cost the entrants anything at all. All they had to do was take a picture of themselves. Obviously, we wanted it to be marine related at the beach, on the boat, or doing something like that with their family, and post it. And then they were our ambassadors. They were telling all of their friends, hey, vote for me because I could win this. It was completely free. And on top of it, the company that was hosting the particular contest got their photo and the right to use it because that was part of the terms and conditions. So now they have an entire stock photography library, which some of them are good, some of them not so much, plus the person's name, email address, and phone number. So we were also increasing the database in addition to just getting people to engage with us online. In this particular campaign, it was 5 weeks. The audience growth was 107% because people had to like the page in order to participate, but also they had to give us their email address and phone number, and the value was over $200,000 in 5 weeks. And the cost? 1% of that, because we partnered with other vendors. So the cost wasn't entirely on the host. We got a hotel to jump in on it because we helped promote them and they promoted their business too. And we had a restaurant participate as well for the whole package. So don't think that if you're going to do a contest, it's going to be super expensive. It doesn't have to be if you're strategic about it. Another example, how many of you are familiar with the Bodhi? Nobody? Only a few people? Okay. I'll say, wow, come on. So everyone, as I mentioned earlier, is all about pictures, taking pictures of themselves and sharing them. The selfie has caught on. I think that's like the word of the year. So how do you tie in what you do, boating, and what's a trend right now? Because I'm sure you've heard other marketing people talk about trends versus fads. Bodhi. Take a picture of yourself on a boat. In this particular marina, this is one of those 4-for-1 things. They were just jumping in on something people were talking about. Had nothing to do with them or their business, and they got tons of engagement out of it. So they said, share your best boatie with Discover Boating and help us all show the world how wonderful life is from a boat. Right? Show us your best boatie. And it was a picture. And pictures poured in because everyone wants theirs to be featured. Everyone wants to show a picture of themselves. It's really powerful. So look around you. Maybe it's something that's not really obvious, like a selfie. Oh, great, I'm taking a picture of myself here. How does that help my business? Well, think about the tie-in. For some of you, you may have seen when I did my promo video for this, I did it on my boat, right? I could have been me at my desk, but I did it on the boat because it connected to what I was talking about and what you guys do. So lead generation was the other component, and we're almost done, and it's on and offline. You have to gather people's contact information. It's not enough for them to walk in your front door and then walk out, because then what's the value to you? They saw your product, they maybe ate your food and had a drink, and that was it. That's not enough. They have to connect with them, and there has to be a way for you to reach out to them again. So take the opportunity to capture their information at events, online, on your website, social media, or otherwise. You can incentivize them. Maybe it's a raffle to win something if they enter their information. But do that. Gather their information, because then you can follow up with them again later. If they already interacted with you once, they're a warm lead versus someone who has never done anything with you before. And we're going to talk a little about this in the near future. It's ultra-targeted communication. That's really where things are going. I want you to talk to me about me and what I care about. Don't tell me about the hundreds of products that you have. Talk to me about the 5 or 10 that are what I need, what relate to my experience, my boat, my life. That's what it's all about. That's where the future is going, is ultra-targeted communication. It supports a relationship because then I feel like you know me and you care about me, and it also gives the opportunity to upsell or side sell. So maybe the person already owns a boat and they're not going to buy one, but maybe you have a couple of products that also have pretty healthy price tags that you can sell me on. Because if you tell me, hey, Samantha, I know you have a Maxim. Well, we have this particular product line and it's an add-on because Maxims aren't made anymore, but we have these things. Great. So now you know me and you're talking to me about what I care about. And I have a much higher likelihood of purchasing from you. And it's all measurable. So, the future. Where do we go from here? What's old is new again. And it sounds counterintuitive because I'm kind of taking you back in time to go forward in time. But if you think about the way really good salespeople worked or marketing worked 10, 20, 50 years ago even, those core truths of knowing your consumer, having a relationship, and being honest and genuine and meeting them where they are all come through. It's all the same. The way you do it might be a little bit different, but that's what you have to remember. So it's all about relationships. Even more so now, it's preference over price. I can choose any which one of you guys to go to for my particular need, but I'm going to go to the one that I have a connection with. Well, I go to this Starbucks even though it's a little bit out of my way because the barista there knows me and what I like. Or I go to this restaurant even though it's marginally more because the atmosphere is great and the bartender knows how to make what I like. It's preference because I have a relationship. And right now, you have far more competitors than you've ever had before, and it's not going to change. So having those relationships with your customers is very important because they could choose to go to anybody else that they wanted. And unless they know you and they believe that you care about them, they will. Meet me where I am. I love this picture. This lion's like, I'm lazy, I'm tired, I don't care. It's probably how you guys feel. You've been doing this all week. Come to me. I don't have the time or the energy to go to you. Come to me. Find out where I am. Meet me where I am. Because if you want me to spend any extra time trying to find you, I'm not going to do it. You have to come to me. So find the touch points. One great homework example that I love to give people is you probably know who your target audience is, or at least you think you do. Whether they're male or female, what their age range is, where they live, what their household income is, that kind of stuff. Create a persona for that. Maybe the person's name is James, and he lives in your city, and he drives this car, and he works at this place. Put together a day in the life of James. When does he get up? How does he get his information? Where does he drive? Where does he eat? Think about that stuff, because just like you probably have a common pattern of events that you follow in your life, so do your consumers. Where can you meet them? You might be surprised. Do they listen to the radio? Are they getting their news in the newspaper or on iPad? Do they not get the news anyway? Do they watch TV? What channels do they watch? Think about that and kind of walk through that process to find new ways to reach your consumers where they are. And then hyper-focus. I touched on this briefly. Explore the different channels that you want to be on, if it's mobile, if it's on specific review websites, if it's social media or otherwise. Not everyone is on Facebook, just like not everyone is on Twitter. So don't think that just because you're on these 3 channels, you're covering your bases. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's where everyone is. So be aware of the different audiences, which I loved your question in the beginning, sir, in the front, about who is on what channel. It's great to be aware of that, because you may think, well, everybody's on this one because it's the biggest network, but you could be missing a huge chunk of people. So which audience, which channel, and when? And then unfortunately, we have to be prepared to pay to play. It's just the way that online media is going. It's very much like there's no free lunch, although I guess today there was, right? Be prepared to pay for their attention. Facebook advertising really does work, and you can track it. It's immensely powerful, and you can narrow down into the most specific of audiences, or you can go really wide. And if you only want to spend $1 a day, you can do that, and you can get results. You can do the same thing with sponsored tweets, Instagram posts, Google AdWords, Bing, however else you want. But determine before you do this, how much is a lead worth? What's your profit margin? Is it pretty big or is it pretty small? And then determine, what am I willing to spend to get that person's attention and to develop a lead? Because I'm willing to spend this much if it means that I have the opportunity to make this much. So just keep that in mind. So I appreciate your attention, and we have about 5 minutes for Q&A. I apologize that's a little bit short, but I'm happy to answer any questions you might have, and I do appreciate you coming out today. Questions? And she's got a microphone so we can hear everybody. You had one? So the question was, is it important to link your constant contact to your social media, and does that work, right? So are you referring to having like a custom sign-up page for your newsletter through Constant Contact on your Facebook page? Absolutely, that's a great tool to use. Does it work? Sometimes. You have to draw attention to it. If it's just a tab on your Facebook page that sits there, no one has a reason to visit it. Do a couple of posts in your newsfeed that encourage people to go there. Maybe have some kind of incentive that if they sign up for that, they get entered to win something, or they get a discount the next time they come in, or they get some kind of service or other value. But yeah, it certainly does work because they're already online. They can easily fill it out. Other questions? Anybody? Oh. Onto the social channels.
So if that comes through there, does it get more credibility?
It's not about credibility for email marketing. That would only be for web. But it doesn't hurt to have that, and you can track that. So you can determine if somebody forwarded it or if they did a social share. But in terms of credibility, that's really more web-focused. That's where credibility comes in.
Okay.
Or inbound links, things like that.
Every time I post something on Constant Contact, I connect it to my Facebook so it shows up on my page. And you know how on your business Facebook it tells you how many people viewed it. For some reason, whenever I upload it from Constant Contact, it shows like 10 people viewed it. But if I upload it, a normal picture or something, I'll get maybe 70 views or more than that, but only 10 see it. I don't understand why when it's from the Constant Contact.
Because it's automated.
Okay.
It's the same thing. There's a system called Ping, and there's a lot of other tools like that where you can broadcast your communication out through a variety of different channels all at one time, and it's the exact same message. It doesn't look genuine. So even as a consumer reading that, if I see something that's loaded with hashtags and it's on a social channel that doesn't use that, I'm like, well, I know how they did that. They just kind of sprayed and prayed that everyone would see it. They sprayed it out there. So the same thing with Constant Contact. Facebook knows that you're sharing it through that, and it's an auto format thing. It's sort of like when you add a picture to a photo album and it sends out a tweet that says, I just added a picture to this photo album. It's automated. There's no human factor to that.
So do you think the better thing to do is send out the email and then I manually write it in on Facebook rather than having it connected? Because then you would have two things. So if someone went to your page, they would think that's kind of repetitious to have it like one after the other.
I never recommend the auto share at all unless it's for your user to auto share with their audience.
Okay.
But the other thing to keep in mind is if you're continually sharing your newsletter, making it public, why would anyone sign up for it?
True.
So think about that. If you want people to sign up for it, but you keep giving it out, well, I don't have to give you my email address if I know you're going to share it on your Facebook page. So you may want to think about that. Yeah?
I think sometimes, though, it depends what you're doing. Like, a lot of people use Constant Contact to promote listings. And some people sign up for it and some people don't, but that doesn't mean other people still wouldn't get it, wouldn't want to
That's a
see it
great
on
example.
Facebook. But another issue that I've noticed is that when I will connect a listing email blast to my Facebook page, sometimes I'm limited in boosting it. So you try to overcome the limitation that she just spoke of, that you're not getting the same credibility, if you will, and such. But sometimes you can't even boost it, even if it's a simple email, because it doesn't meet the criteria and it looks spammy or something.
Are you also sharing those listings on your website?
Well, yeah, they're all on the website.
So why would you share, I'm just asking, share the link to the email versus sharing the link to the listing on your website?
Say that again?
So you're saying you have a listing and you have it on your website, but you send an email out to people who signed up for it, right? And then you're trying to share a link to that email in Constant Contact on your Facebook page.
Just some people might not go to the site today. Somebody's checking their phone on Facebook. Somebody checked their email. I mean, just always, price change.
My question
Anyway.
is, why are we directing them to a Constant Contact archive email versus directing them to the listing on the website?
Well, okay, that's a really good question. And the reason, and now for us, it's changing because we're implementing API technology, but I would be then taking them to like Yacht World, for instance, where then they're going to see everyone's listings.
So the listing
listings is an iframe on my website, which is how it is for most people in the industry. There are very few that are now implementing the API technology where you own the page and still get the data from a place like Yacht World. But we try to limit opening the viewer up to see the whole world's listings.
I think there's got to be a way. I would direct them to a very specific page because directing them to your email, one, you're going to have the limitation with your boosting, but also you're missing the opportunity for them to explore the rest of your site or the things you have on there, and you're not going to get the tracking ability. So I would say let's find a workaround for where you're directing them, and then that should solve your first problem and give you more value on the other side too.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah?
When you were referencing the ladies over there, when they were talking about only getting the 10 views, and you were saying if you're spraying it out there, you're not referencing Hootsuite, are you?
No, I mean, Hootsuite, if you were sending, so for instance, you schedule something in Hootsuite that's going to go on your Facebook page, on your Twitter, on your Pinterest, on all of those, yes, it could discredit you because it's the exact same information that's being sprayed out all over the place. If you customize it, it's very easy. So say, for instance, I have one message that I want to get out there. I might just reword it and have one or two different versions. And if it's going on Twitter or Instagram, I'm going to use hashtags. If it's going on Facebook, I'm not going to do that. So just kind of mixing it up because you also have to think, as a user, we're all consumers at the end of the day. How do we leverage social media? I'm not just on one channel, right? I don't think anybody here probably is. I use Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, so I might follow a person or a business on more than one. And if I see that same message on all of those channels, it just doesn't look as genuine. It's like someone's not really putting the effort into it, and you kind of get the discredit for being automated. Not that you can't schedule things. That's a great tool. Not exactly the same. Yeah, even just a little bit. Yeah. Yeah. And the hashtags, that kind of stuff, you can, obviously if you're on a channel that uses hashtags, you're going to use them. So, exactly. But if you're using a system like Hootsuite and you're not customizing it and you put it out there, well, it's going to go out with hashtags on every single one because it's in the message. Anybody else? Yeah.
In regards to Hummingbird, on my YouTube channel in the description section, I use a lot of hyperlinks to our website. At what point does that start hurting my SEO results?
It shouldn't.
It shouldn't. Okay, because you had said before about inbound.
That's only if
links.
those inbound links are from illegitimate sites.
Okay. Good.
Like
good.
junk sites that just host links because they're spammers.
Okay. Thank you.
That's a good idea, actually. Anytime you're posting videos, you should have a link to your website in your profile, but also in the videos that you're posting, have an accurate description, put keywords in it, and a call to action with a link in the description of your video. Anybody else? No? Okay. Thank you very much.